Hey St. Canardians, I'm Will from the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast. I hope everyone's doing okay with the corona going around, and I hope everybody's safe. I hope everyone's healthy. I hope all your loved ones are the same as well. I wanted to do a video because I've noticed when I talk with the Darkwing community, we have a tendency to talk like about their favorite episodes, of course, and there's always like a tier 1 and then there's like a tier 2 episodes that everybody likes to talk about. With tier 1 you get the Justice Ducks, Life the Negaverse and everything, The Haunting of Mr. Banana Brain, Hot Spells, Darkly Dawns the Duck, and then when you get to like a second tier, you get Comic Book Capers, Jailbird, Clash Reunion. These are episodes that a lot of the fans and within the Darkwing community and like my own Darkwing peers, we seem to always talk about. But then I feel like there's a third level tier of episodes that people just don't talk about for some reason. And these episodes are really good. They're just not as well known. They for some reason they don't seem to come up in conversation. So what I wanted to do was list these episodes. I don't want to like count them down because I don't want to count them down as from 5 to 1 or something. So I'm just gonna name 5. There's more. My co-host Mike, he had a few other episodes that were a little different than mine. That's fine. We had like 2 or 3 that were the same. So I wanted to do this video so like these videos seem to get passed on. I know these are not the episodes that you recommend to someone right off the bat, but these are episodes that should be talked about a little more. They're pretty good. It's not a brush with oblivion. Those are really popular because Splatter Phoenix and then the villains could play a part in it. But let's go ahead and get into these episodes, and I have 5 I want to talk about. So let's get into it with starting off with number 5. A Star Scorn is a fun episode. It's an episode where we actually get to see humans.
Well, you're close. I have a meeting with my TV producer.
Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Duck. Always a thrill when stars visit Disney Studios.
Darkwing is supposed to be casted as a movie star he's destined to be, and we all know how his ego is. But apparently he's getting replaced by a villain.
Hi, everybody.
Not you, Bushroot.
Named Bushroot. And Darkwing isn't taking it well with his ego and everything. So it's an episode it's hilarious. It kind of reminds me of Roger Rabbit a little bit, but it's fun. It's enjoyable. I know it's not quite the top tier ones, but it's still an episode I think should come up in more conversation within the Darkwing community. So let's go ahead and move on now to number 4. Number 4, Inside Binky's Brain. Now this is an episode that I think is kind of slept on. It's an episode where Binky is not just kind of have that female stereotype that she always has where she's just sweet and innocent. She actually becomes a hero in this episode. But she doesn't quite become the hero like Darkwing would like. And what's cool about this episode is you get to see her crime fighting with Darkwing and Launchpad throughout the whole episode, which is really, really cool. And then you got some narrative by Darkwing explaining the things about LP, how everyone has a hero inside of their brain. So, it's a good episode. I wish people would talk about it a little more. It never seems to come up in conversation as well. So let's go ahead and move on now to number 3. Number 3 is the episode that is kind of very dear to me. It's called Chameleon. And this episode is very dear to me because of the title Chameleon. A lot of people who grew up with me knew that was like a name I used for tags and online AOL. And because I always felt like my lifestyle was kind of like a chameleon, but that's a whole nother story. But this episode I really like because Cammy, the villain in this episode, is a shapeshifter, kind of like Mystique from X-Men. And with Cammy, The audience, when you watch this episode, you understand that, you know, her eyes gives away that it's Cammy. But, you know, within the Darkwing, the Saint Canard community, you know, they can't tell it's Cammy because she keeps shape-shifting. And she shape-shifts to a lot of things in here and a lot of other people, which can make it confusing for our characters within the episode. I wish Cammy would have been used again. I think her shapeshifting was really cool and it worked because she was always tricking people. And it's a really great episode. It's another one that was a Saturday morning, and for some reason this episode is just not talked about amongst fans. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on now to number 2. Dead Duck. This is an episode where Darkwing actually fails and he loses to Megavolt. Megavolt kills him, and Megavolt is just living the limelight. There are some puns and jokes in here that like Darkwing does with his hands, which is really funny. And he's trying to bribe the Grim Reaper and Lucifer to let him back because he wants to still participate. He didn't want to die. It's kind of a sad episode. It's an episode you don't really expect from Disney, especially during the 90s, but it really worked. It's a really, really solid episode that has a huge twist. I'm not going to spoil it for people who've never seen it, but I don't know why this episode never comes up when you're talking with Darkwing fans. It just never does for some reason, but it's a great episode. Personally, I think this one should be a tier 2 episode, but unfortunately it just doesn't get talked about. You know, that's just the way it is. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on now to number 1. Okay, now number 1, obviously if you listen to the podcast, if you know me personally, you know I'm a huge Quacker Jack fan. Now when it comes to Quacker Jack, I cannot debate The Haunting Mr. Banana Brain being a top tier episode or one of the best Quacker Jack solo episodes. Can't argue that, can't debate it. But another one comes up a lot with For Why You Work. And I understand people have sentimental value to that one. I do too, because it's Quacker Jack's origin episode. So it holds dear to my heart. But Toy Sees Are Us is slept on for a Quacker Jack solo episode for some reason. In this episode, we get the toy teeth, we get Mr. Banana Brain, the original Mr. Banana Brain that we're all familiar with, and we get Bobo for the first time. No, not Bobo from Double Dragon. But it's a fun episode where you get to see all his toys and stuff, and Darkwing's competing against him, and Quacker Jack ain't no joke in this one. I really like that one, but for some reason that episode is just never spoken about, especially when it comes to Quacker Jack fans. Alright guys, so that was 5 episodes that I've wanted to discuss because I think they're episodes that are slept on and they should be discussed more often, you know, just in conversation or something, you know, given their props. Those are not, they're not the tier 1s, I get that. But they're episodes that should be talked about amongst fans. Well, anyway, guys, I'm signing out. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and remember, stay dangerous.